ladies and gentlemen, to the She Knows Pro Football podcast. Once again, I'm Alice, aka the NFL Girl, and once again, I got my good friend Dominick here with me. Dominick, how you doing today?
Alice, I'm doing great. It's my favorite time of year, Thanksgiving. Everybody says they love Christmas. Give me Thanksgiving. I'll take all the stuffing and string bean casserole.
Hey, you and I agree. This is my favorite holiday of all the holidays on the calendar. Nothing but food and football. You guys, I'm so excited for Thanksgiving. We got not one, not two, but three great games coming up, filled with a great week of football. So let us get started with our Thanksgiving Day games. We got the 7-3 Buffalo Bills headed to Detroit to face the 4-6 Lions. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this must not be the one of the good games you're talking about. You must be talking about the Egg Bowl that's going to be played at 7:30 because I think this game's going to be a blowout. We saw Buffalo played in the same stadium last week after their stadium got dumped on with 5 feet of snow. The Bills Mafia helped them get to the airport, helped them get to Detroit. They were able to beat Cleveland. They won by 8 points. The game was actually, more out of hand than that. Cleveland got a touchdown there at the end to make it closer. Buffalo's they're back to playing really good right now. Josh Allen's not even on the injury report anymore, so his elbow is completely healthy. Yeah, Stephon Diggs was a little mad last week that he didn't get a whole lot of receptions and targets there in the first half, but they're going to give him some receptions and targets in this game, especially against this terrible Detroit secondary. Detroit played really good last week against the Giants, but I think they kind of played over their head. That may be their best game of the year. They're going to have a letdown here coming home. They always seem to play bad on Thanksgiving. We saw last week they got crushed on Thanksgiving. I think they're going to get crushed again here on Thanksgiving. I can see like a 40-21 finish here for Buffalo.
Lions do not play well on Thanksgiving. I recall it's been several years that I think that they've won. So they're not a real great Thanksgiving Day team. They did look great last week. They had a phenomenal win. I think that'll probably be their best showing of the season, unfortunately, because their defense is still garbage. And they're going against the Bills. Bills are looking tremendous. I love their offense. Defense has all but a couple of their players back healthy, which again, a couple of the players that are going to be out be a little bit of a concern, but not going against these Lions. I'm fully confident that the Bills will get this game and win it handily. So I'm definitely taking the Bills in this game. Next up, we got the 7-3 New York Giants headed to Dallas to face the 7-3 Cowboys. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, this one should be a good game. These games, no matter like how good or bad either of these teams are, they always play these games close, and this is going to be another one. It's going to be fun to see it on Thanksgiving instead of the first week of the year like we normally see it on primetime football. But Saquon Barkley did not have a good game last week. He only scored 5 fantasy points. He had 22 receiving yards or 22 rushing yards, 13 receiving yards. It was just a terrible game all around for the Giants. He's going to have to be much better in this game, and I think he's going to be because the Dallas defense, as good as it is, their rush defense is not as good as their pass defense. At the end of the game last week, Micah Parsons came off. He was a little injured. Limping, we'll see I'm sure he's going to play in this game, but we'll see how up to the challenge he is. Dak Prescott looks really good. CeeDee Lamb looks really good. And I do think Dallas is going to win this game. Elliott looked good last week, and Tony Pollard looked outstanding last week, like he should be taking over Ezekiel Elliott. They just totally dominated the Vikings last week in the 40-3 win. I don't think they're going to dominate the Giants this week. I do think Saquon Barkley is going to have a bounce back game. I do think Daniel Jones is going to play good, but their offense is really just those two players. They don't really have any wide receivers at this point. So I am going to take the Cowboys to win this game.
Cowboys had a tremendous game last week. They really exposed the Vikings in a way that no other team had up to this point. And they looked phenomenal in the process of doing it. Tony Pollard now looks like the RB1 there over Ezekiel Elliott. I know they're playing him as a 1-2 combo, which is great, but I kind of like seeing what Tony Pollard could do and how well he's playing this season or whatever. Dak is looking really good, which has improved the game of CeeDee Lamb. Like I said at the beginning of the season, there were concerns about CeeDee, and all those concerns have gone away. Running game is stout. Best defense in the league, at least top 5. Love watching them play. Micah Parsons is just a beast. Giants, meanwhile, again, Saquon's numbers was off last week. I expect to bounce back as well. Daniel Jones, I expect good things out of him, mostly just handing it off and passing the ball to Saquon, unfortunately, because again, like you said, there are no receivers there. This is division rivals, and these are two very competitive division rivals. I expect a tremendous game, a game that goes down to the wire, absolutely, for these two teams. But at the end of the day, the way the Cowboys are rolling right now, it's hard for me to pick against them, especially on Thanksgiving. I'm giving this one to the Cowboys. Next up, we got the 6-4 New England Patriots headed to Minnesota to face the 8-2 Vikings. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, the Vikings kind of got exposed last week. Yes, they're 8-2 and they're second in the conference right now. But they've been playing a lot of teams with either they beat the Bills when Josh Allen was injured. They've played 4 backup quarterbacks so far this year. The 2 games they lost obviously were against Dak Prescott with the Cowboys and Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. So we'll have to see what happens here. I don't think that the offense of the Patriots is going to be able to keep up with the Vikings. I do think that Justin Jefferson, after having a down week last week, as well as Dalvin Cook, are going to have bounce back games this week. I think Kirk Cousins, I know it's in prime time, but it's Thanksgiving, so that might be tough. But I do think that even with Kirk Cousins playing in prime time, that's just going to make it close in this one. I still think they'll be able to pull it out and win. So I think they'll win by like a field goal.
Minnesota really did, like I just said, talking about the Cowboys game, really got exposed very, very badly last week. That being said, going against these Patriots, I feel like they're going to have a tremendous bounce back because they're still a phenomenal team with a tremendous defense and an outstanding offense. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook. I know Dalvin Cook has been hurt. His numbers have been off a little because of that torn labrum situation. So long as he keeps the harness on, he'll be fine there. Patriots, just look, they're playing well enough to be doing good in their division, but going against the Vikings, who are going to be pissed off about losing last week and losing as badly as they did, are going to want to come back home and get a tremendous win. I think they get it done, giving this one to the Vikings. Moving on to Sunday, we got the 5-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers headed to Cleveland to face the 3-7 Browns. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really low-scoring, fast-moving, run-first game. Yeah, they're going to use Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They used them for 33 carries for 171 yards last week. They're going to do the same thing this week. I think with the Tampa Bay coming off the bye being in Cleveland, they're going to use the run as well. It came out today that Todd Bowles said he's going to use whoever the hot hand is, whether that be Leonard Fournette or whether it be Rachaad White. I do think it's going to be Leonard Fournette at the beginning, and then they'll probably use Rachaad White near the end when they have him tired out. So I do think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. But as we said before, I can't pick the Browns for any game, so I'm going to pick the Buccaneers.
Not seeing a lot out of Tom Brady this season, but again, their ground game has still been pretty solid. I don't necessarily know that that's been because of injuries fully. I know that there have been games that both Godwin and Evans have been out, and I know that's been a little bit of a problem, but Fournette is solid. Browns absolutely have to rely most heavily on their ground game because they have such a good ground game in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I'm not saying that their passing game is terrible. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett has been doing pretty well with the receivers that he has there, but they're still only 3-7, so they're not getting over the hump. They've been in games, but not being able to finish games. And part of that has been that their offense just can't keep up when it comes to scoring more than it is their defense. At the end of the day, look, I got to take the Buccaneers in this game. I just feel like Tom Brady's trying to will himself and this team into the playoffs and struggling like they have been, only at 500. He knows he's got to get the games like this one here against a weak opponent. So give this one to Tampa Bay. Next up, we got the 6-4 Cincinnati Bengals headed to Tennessee to face the 7-3 Titans. Dominic, who you got?
This is going to be another great game. I think it's going to be it'll be a repeat of the playoff game last year where Ryan Tannehill had 3 interceptions in the first half. I don't think he's going to do that here because I don't think they'll let him throw the ball 3 times. I think it's going to be a big Derrick Henry game. But it came out today that I guess Joe Burrow is now Jamar Chase's doctor because he said that Jamar Chase is going to be back for this game. With that being said, they played very good against the Steelers down the stretch last week to get the victory. I think they're going to be able to do the same thing here with Jamar Chase being back. He's going to get involved. They're going to use Joe Mixon as long as he's back out of concussion protocol, and they'll use T. Higgins as well as Tyler Boyd as well. So I really like this Cincinnati Bengals offense. Their defense has been playing better as well. So I'm going to take the Bengals here to go into Tennessee and win another game.
Listen, Ryan Tannehill's biggest and best weapon always at the end of the day is Derrick Henry, more than it is any of their receivers. And that has worked for them. And their defense has been so-so, and that's been able to will them, in particular in their division, to wins every single week. The Bengals, meanwhile, I tell you guys this all the time, I love this team. I love the camaraderie. I love Joe Burrow. I even like watching T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd take over while Jamar Chase has been out. if they have Jamar Chase back, that's just another element to keep this team winning in the way that they should be. As far as Joe Mixon, again, concussion protocol, I hope he clears in time. And if he does, that kid is stout as hell. And you're going to see a hell of a ground game. If it comes down to a Joe Mixon versus Derrick Henry, I'd be more concerned. But considering if they have Jamar Chase back for sure with Joe Burrow, no question, it won't even be close. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and give this game to the Bengals. Next up, we got the 1-8-1 Houston Texans headed to Miami to face the 7-3 Dolphins. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, we've seen how bad the Miami Hurricanes are playing this year. I think the Dolphins would have a harder chance against the Miami Hurricanes than they're going to have against this Houston Texans team. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. It could be Davis Mills. They're talking now. It could be Kyle Allen. Dameon Pierce is the only thing they have on offense. They really have nothing on defense. I know Derek Stingley's having a good rookie year, but he can't do it all himself. This is going to be a blowout. Right now, the Dolphins are favored by 13 points, and I can easily see them covering that.
Texans are garbage. I don't give a rat's ass if Lovie Smith decides to go ahead and switch over to Kyle Allen or not. It's not going to make a difference for this team. The fact that, Brandon Cooks wanted out of there and he's kind of still trapped there or whatever doesn't bode well. That kind of tells you what's going on with this team. There's a lot of stuff that isn't getting out there, but something's going on and the chemistry is not there. And I don't think even making a quarterback change is going to make a difference at all. Dolphins looking incredible. Love this chemistry Tua has with Tyreek and with Jalen Waddle. So not concerned about them, especially playing at home, giving this game to the Dolphins. Next up, we got the 3-8 Chicago Bears headed to New York to face the 6-4 Jets. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, the Bears have had a streak of bad luck lately. They've lost the last 4 games, and they've scored over 24 points in every one of those games. In 3 of those games, they gave up over 30 points. It's been a struggle for them on defense. It was a struggle again last week, giving up 27 points to the Atlanta Falcons. Even without Kyle Pitts being there, he's out for the rest of the year. But the Bears did get some good news. They're going to have Justin Fields in this game. He came back to start practicing today, so he should be good to go. And they're going up against the Jets team, who is sitting Zach Wilson and putting in Mike White. I don't know if that's actually a good thing or a bad thing, because Zach Wilson's been playing terrible. Mike White, we saw last year when he came in that he was able to move this team. They really like what they have in him. So I think they're going to really do some good things here. They're going to be able to move the ball, but I do think the Bears are going to be able to move the ball more with David Montgomery, with Justin Fields. I know they don't really have a pass game in here, but that's actually going to be good for them because with Sauce Gardner there, they're not going to have to go after him. They can just simply keep it on the ground and run the ball. All they have to do is hope that the offensive line can hold up against this Jets defense that is 6th in the league right now in sacks. I think they're going to be able to hold up enough, and I do think that the Bears are going to be able to get enough points to beat the fighting Mike Whites, and I think the Bears are going to win.
The thing that has been keeping the Jets in games is absolutely their defense. And Sauce Gardner got to be in the discussion at the end of the year for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Love this kid. Love what he's doing. However, their offense is garbage. And I think people are starting to really see that it's really been that defense that has been carrying the hell out of this team. It really showed up last week for them. And I think Saleh finally got tired of it and is going to switch to Mike White. I don't know that at this point, especially this late in the season, it's going to make enough of a difference for this team. They really don't have a good passing game at all. Bears, meanwhile, again, one of my favorite try-hard teams in the league. They absolutely try every single week and they give it everything they got and just fall short because the defense is effing garbage. And so is Justin Fields' offensive line. Those are issues they're going to have to address in the offseason. In the meantime, we got to get through this rest of this season, rely on that ground game. Maybe have to have Justin Fields scramble way too much. Maybe he will have to score a couple of those touchdowns along with Montgomery. This one, I definitely, just because I don't feel like there's going to be any chemistry there for the Jets. I feel like the defense will keep the team in it, but I don't feel like the offense is going to be able to put up enough points giving this one to the Bears. Next up, we got the 5-6 Atlanta Falcons headed to Washington to face the 6-5 Commanders. Dominick, who you got?
Commanders finally figured out what they should do. They should run the ball. And that's what they did the last 2 weeks. They were able to beat the Eagles with it. They were able to beat the Texans with it last week, 23-10. I think they're going to be able to come into this game as well and beat the Atlanta Falcons. Marcus Mariota played good last week. He had 2 touchdowns to Drake London, but Kyle Pitts got injured. He's going to be out for the rest of the year with a torn MCL. They do want to run the ball, but the defense of Washington has been very good against the run lately. They stopped Dameon Pierce last week. I think they're going to be able to stop enough of Cordero Patterson this week, even though he's he's more in the pass game as well, but I still think they're going to be able to shut them down enough. It looks like Chase Young might actually be back for this game as well. He is back on the 53-man roster, so if he comes back, that could be a big, even if he's not able to play every snap, he can get in there. That could be a big moral boost for this team. So I do think Washington's going to be able to win this game.
Listen, the loss of Kyle Pitts, even though his numbers weren't tremendous this season, I feel like there was some wasted opportunity there. I feel like Marcus Mariota has relied a little more on Cordell Patterson. And so it's nothing in Russell Gage. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think I'm sad that he's now out on IR for the rest of the season. I'm hoping that Cordell Patterson can do enough to keep this team in this game. But Commanders, listen, I've been telling people they've got to stick with Taylor Heinicke. I don't give a rat's ass if Carson Wentz is back in next week or, it makes the 53-man roster. I don't think they should switch back. I think they've declared it that he will be the starter the rest of the season. Kudos. They need to just keep that as a permanent thing because he makes such a tremendous difference for this team and how well they play with him. He has a great running game. He's got decent receivers. Their defense, if Chase Young makes it back this week, like you said, even if he's on a pitch count, just having him out there, his presence on the field, that veteran presence and how energetic this kid is going to make a difference for that team. As much as I want to pick the Falcons because I love Cordell Patterson and I love Marcus Mariota, I think the Commanders going to have just enough to get it done. I think it's going to be pretty close, but I think Commanders will get it done at the end of the day. Next up, we got the 3-7 Denver Broncos headed to Carolina to face the 3-8 Panthers. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, do we have to pick this game? I'll just say congratulations to you for Denver finally getting a win, even if it is against the Panthers. This is a terrible game. The over-under is only 36 in this game, which is the lowest of the year so far. This is going to be an awful slog fest. We don't even know if the Denver Broncos are going to have a running back. Obviously, they don't have Javonte Williams. They just released Melvin Gordon, and now Chase Edmonds is on IR. So I don't know what they're going to do in this game unless they're going to make Russell Wilson a $200 million running back and have somebody else like Tyler Hinton or something get back there a quarterback. That would be the only thing they're going to have a running back here. So he's going to have to do a lot with his arm in this game. I don't think he's going to be able to, but it's still going to be enough to beat this Panthers team who is just dreadful.
Listen, my team is god awful. The Broncos are just terrible. And it's not even because their defense is top 5. That's the sad part. They got a tremendous defense. Their offense is pure garbage. And now they don't have their RB1 or 2. They're now back to their RB3 and 4 at this point, I apologize. I don't remember their names off the top of my head, but that's where we are in the depth chart at this point. And if you're relying heavily on Russell Wilson and what he can do, we've seen balls fall way short of their receivers because he doesn't have the arm talent that he once had. And that's sad to see. Will they be able to get it done? If this was any other team other than the Panthers, I'd say they'd probably lose. But the Panthers are god awful to the point that they have now decided to go back to Sam Darnold over Baker, over PJ. So that's where we are at this point of the season for that team. Terrible team. And this is going to be a terrible game. Again, I'm going to take the Broncos in this game, but it's not going to be a fun game to watch, and I'm hurt that I got to be the one to watch it. Next up, we got the 7-3 Baltimore Ravens headed to Jacksonville to face the 3-7 Jaguars. Dominick, who you got?
Just by these records, it looks like it's going to be a really bad game. But we thought the same thing last week with the Ravens playing the Panthers. They only ended up beating them by 10 points. And that was just at the end of the game. They got a touchdown. It was just an ugly game last week. They don't play good against the Jaguars either. They've played 25 times so far as teams. The Jaguars have won 15 of those games. So I think this is going to be a good game. The Jaguars are coming off their bye week. They have Trevor Lawrence coming back out. Hopefully him and Christian Kirk can keep their connection going. Hopefully Travis Etienne has been doing very good this year. Hopefully he can keep doing very well. I do think that Jaguars are going to have something for the Ravens in this game. It is in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville defense has been playing better than the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense, they're still getting a couple players back, which is good. But Ronnie Stanley, their offensive left tackle, was injured himself again last week, so he may be out again. He's been injured the past couple of years, and it's going to be tough for them if he is injured, especially with Trayvon Walker coming off the side there. So I do think that the Jacksonville is going to be able to somehow, some way win this game.
Listen, again, Lamar Jackson has something to play for, and I think that he is determined that he's going to get it done this season, whether he wins MVP or not. He is going to get that long-term deal, and he's going to force them by playing hella of well that they have no other option but to sign him to a long-term deal. Jaguars, listen, like this kid Trevor Lawrence, loved Travis Etienne. I'm glad I'm finally seeing him do something there. But going against the Ravens, and as well as the Ravens are playing, I know that they're having some struggles on defense, in particular in their secondary. I know that they're having struggles, but I really feel like, again, because of how badly Lamar wants this deal, I know he's going to give it everything he got to win all of these games down the stretch. And I just feel like at the end of the day, that's what he's going to do here, is will himself to win, even if it's just by a field goal. So giving this one to the Ravens. Next up, we got the 5-5 Los Angeles Chargers headed to Arizona to face the 4-7 Cardinals. Dominick, who you got?
I would actually like to take the Cardinals because they actually took a stand against their coach, and when he was accused of groping a woman in Mexico last week, they fired him immediately. They didn't go through the whole shebang that Cleveland went through with Deshaun Watson. That being said, they suck. And Cliff Kingsbury is not a good coach. He should not have gotten the job there to begin with. Now they just signed to an extension. So if they fire him, they're going to owe him a lot of money. So I don't know if they're going to be able to fire him. Don't know if, Kyler Murray's going to be back for this game or not. If not, Colt McCoy was also injured, so it might be down to Trace McSorley again. I mean, last week's game was so bad that at the end of the game, it was Trace McSorley throwing to AJ Green. It was just an ugly game. I think this one's not going to be quite as ugly because I think the Chargers have the chance to charge her like they always do. But I really like Justin Herbert. I think he's going to be the best player in this game. I think Austin Eckler is going to be a close second. So I'm going to take the Chargers to go into Arizona and beat the Cardinals.
Mike Williams and Keenan Allen made it back last week, and then Mike Williams turned around and got hurt and wasn't able to come back into the game. I cannot guarantee that Mike Williams will be back this particular week, but it's okay because they still have Austin Eckler, and it sounds like Keenan is fully healthy and will be able to play. I hope that that's the case, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. The Cardinals, meanwhile, oh my God, just the whole drama with the coach that they had is a effing nightmare to begin with, and then add on top of it the fact that this team isn't playing well. Is it going to be Trace McSorley again? We don't even know. That's the thing. That's the question mark, is will Kyler finally be back healthy? There are accusations that Kyler's just ducking starting because he's tired of the criticism when they're not playing well. I don't know that's the case. I think he's legitimately hurt. Doesn't matter. I don't think that they're going to get the win here. Defense is fine, but their offense is just not going to be able to put up points because, again, we saw what happened last week. They're not a good team right now, and it's not all on Kyler. It's just something is not clicking with this team. I definitely have to take the Chargers in the game. I think they just got more healthy players at this point in the season. Next up, we got the 3-7 Las Vegas Raiders headed to Seattle to face the 6-4 Seahawks. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, the Raiders finally got a victory last week. They had 2 touchdowns from Devontae Adams. It was good to see him and Derek Carr finally getting their connection together after they had a good connection earlier in the year, and then it kind of slipped off there. They did beat the Denver team that has a very good defense, as he said, but they were able to score on them. The Seattle defense is not nearly as good. They have been getting better as of late. They only gave up 21 points to Tampa Bay in their last game before the bye in Germany. I think they're going to be able to hold the Raiders down just enough here with Ken Walker III, with DK Metcalf, with Tyler Lockett all being healthy and weapons for Geno Smith, who's having a Pro Bowl type year. I think that Seattle being at home, they're going to be able to win this game.
Raiders finally got a win simply because they were placing the Broncos, who are even worse than they are, which is saying something. Good Lord. But they're going against the Seahawks. Listen, the Raiders have Devontae Adams and Derek Carr, and they have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. They have Matt Collins. I know that Darren Waller has been hurt, but the weapons I just named, there's no excuse for why this team is playing as poorly as they are. Can't put that all on their defense. Can't put it all on injuries or anything like that. This team is just poorly coached, and it's not getting it done on the field, and it's so ridiculous to watch it every single week. Seahawks, meanwhile, they're going to be coming back healthy and refreshed and well-rested, playing at home in the atmosphere of the 12s. Raiders, kudos to you for getting that win last week. They're not going to get it done here in Seattle, giving this one to the Seahawks. Next up, we got the 3-7 Los Angeles Rams headed to Kansas City to face the 8-2 Chiefs. Dominick, who you got?
This is another easy one for me to pick, Alice. I mean, the Rams, we don't even know who they're going to have a quarterback. It doesn't look like it's going to be Matthew Stafford. It doesn't look like it's going to be John Wolford. It looks like it's going to be Bryce Perkins. That said, the Chiefs are already 14.5-point favorites in this game. They're the biggest favorites this week, which is shocking when we know the Rams just won the Super Bowl last year. I don't even think that's going to be enough, though. We saw what Patrick Mahomes can do. We've known for many years what he can do. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on IR, but he hasn't really been doing much for the team anyway this year. The defense isn't going to have to do much. They're not going to be able to have to hold up much here with nothing being left on offense for the Rams. So I am going to have to take the Chiefs here to win this game pretty easily.
Rams aren't healthy. Bryce Perkins is likely going to be the starting QB this week. Running game has been non-existent to the point that players have been cut. So not expecting a whole lot out of them. Defense has been a massive disappointment. So going against the Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium, the way that they've been playing, he's just been relying mostly on Travis Kelce, despite the fact that he's got other great receivers there. It doesn't matter that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out for the rest of the season. When you got Travis Kelce, you don't need anything else. They proved that on the last game. So definitely got to take the Chiefs here. I don't think this is going to be a good game. Rams are just a god-awful mess. Good luck to them next season. Next up, we got the 4-7 New Orleans Saints headed to San Francisco to face the 6-4 49ers. Dominick, who you got?
49ers looked good last week against Arizona, but again, it was Arizona. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But they look good in the 38-10 route of Arizona on Monday Night Football. I don't think they're going to be able to do that to the Saints this week. The Saints looked actually pretty good last week, but it is, Andy Dalton in the afternoon. It's not a primetime game, which is good, but it is later in the day. So that worries me a little bit. Alvin Kamara hasn't really been doing a whole lot. Chris Allen's been solid. He might be the offensive rookie of the year, but they don't really have much else there. Andy Dalton isn't a great quarterback. He did good last week at the 3 touchdowns and everything, but I don't think that's going to be enough. This game, I think San Francisco's defense is going to be able to clamp down on him. They're going to be able to stop the run game. They're going to be able to stop Alvin Kamara, and that's not going to be good things for Andy Dalton. So I am going to take the 49ers to win this game, and hopefully Christian McCaffrey gets a touchdown.
Listen, 49ers looked phenomenal last week. And I know it was against the Cardinals, but they've showed how well they could play in every phase of the game. Deebo Samuel got into the scoring mix. Brandon Ayuk got into the scoring mix. We saw George Kittle out there. This team looked tremendous. This week, I'm hoping they get more CMC out there, maybe a CMC to Deebo Samuel touchdown. That's my hope for this week. Meanwhile, the Saints, it's just their offense that's really, really struggling. Even though, again, like you're saying, Chris Olave absolutely has to be in the discussion for Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially under Andy Dalton. I know that Jameis Winston is healthy. I know that he would like to get back out there, but I think they still feel like they have a little better thing going for them with Andy Dalton still continuing to be out there playing against these 49ers, and particularly the way they played last week. I think they finally have it all figured out. I feel like Jimmy G is really showing what he can actually do, capabilities he really has, and having a new powerful weapon there in CMC is going to help them out. Just got to take the 49ers in the game, especially because they're playing at home. Next up, we got the 4-7 Green Bay Packers headed to Philly to face the 9-1 Eagles. Dominick, who you got?
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers cannot stop the rush. So I think the Eagles are going to use a lot of Miles Sanders in this game. Philadelphia has had a tough time against the rush as well, but they just signed Linval Joseph last week as well as Ndamukong Suh, so that should really help them. And their secondary has been great this year with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson as well as Darius Slay and James Bradbury. So they're going to be able to stop Christian Watson, who's been having a really good past couple of weeks. He's had 5 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks with Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is not looking the same. Him and Tom Brady look like they're almost done. It's just unfortunate to see because he did win the last 2 MVP awards. But I just think that they're going to be coming to this game. They always play Philadelphia tough. They've beaten them the last couple of times. Last time Philadelphia went out to Green Bay, they got throttled by Green Bay, and that was with Devontae Adams getting injured halfway through the game. Obviously, they don't have Devontae Adams in this game, and I think that's going to be a huge difference. I don't think they're going to be able to do anything to the Eagles in this game. So I am going to take the Eagles to win this game by probably a touchdown.
Packers always play the Eagles tough. Always, always, always. And I know the loss of Devontae Adams is going to be a big difference because it has been all season long. So I expect it to still be a very interesting game. But the Eagles right now, look, they can rely on Miles Sanders in this ground game, or they can go with this great passing game with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. I love this team and what they're capable of doing. I expect it to be a closer game because, again, Packers are going to play tough. They're tired of losing the way that they're losing. And I know Aaron Rodgers is pretty much fed up of losing the way that they're losing. But going against Philly, playing the way that Philly is playing right now, they kind of struggled a little bit in the first half of last week's game that was able to turn it around and still get the win. I think I could absolutely see a repeat of that this week where they're going to struggle early and they get their mess together in the second half and take off. So playing there at home, got to get this to the Eagles. And last up, we got our Monday night matchup. We got the 3-7 Pittsburgh Steelers headed to Indy to face the 4-6-1 Colts. Dominic, who you got?
Yeah, can I make a vote that we start flexing out Monday Night Football games just like we can Sunday night game? Because this is an ugly game that maybe it looked a little bit better in the preseason, but now it's a terrible game. Nobody wants to watch this game, not even Steelers fans or Colts fans. So I'm just going to say that I think the Colts are going to win and give Jeff Saturday another victory.
Listen, I'm hoping in the future that Pickett to Pickens matchup is going to be even better. It was good to see it last week. I'd like to see more of it this week. I'd like to see more of that in the future. I think that might be the direction that team is headed. The Colts, meanwhile, it would be lovely to see Jeff Saturday to get his second win of the season playing there at home in Indy, especially starting Matt Ryan. If Jonathan Taylor can get it going on the ground and rack up over 100 yards and a touchdown, they could easily get this game because it's not going to be a high scoring game at all, considering these offenses aren't great. And so it's a toss up for me, but I think at the end of the day, because of the ground game, I haven't seen a lot out of Najee Harris this year. Because of the ground game with Indy, definitely got to give this one to the Colts. Well, you guys, that's all of our matchups. Dominic, give me one start and one sit in fantasy.
Yeah, for a start, I'm going to go to running back. I'm going to go to the Dolphins, and I'm going to say start Jeff Wilson. He's been there for 2 games. He's had over 80 yards in both games. Mike McDaniel loves him. He had him in San Francisco. He brought him over here specifically to, mix up with Raheem Mustard. Loves him, and I think he's going to keep using him. So I would start him if you need a running back this week. And for somebody to sit, I'm also going to go with the running back. I said that Saquon Barkley might have a breakback game this week. I don't think he's going to. I think that the defense with the Cowboys is going to be able to clamp down on him. I think it's going to be a very tough, low-scoring game between these two. And I think it's I know a couple years ago on Thanksgiving, Antonio Gibson went bat crap crazy and had 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys. I don't think it's going to happen in this game. The defense is far better now than it was then. So I think that Saquon Barkley's going to have a tough game.
Great advice. Well, you guys, that's all the time that we have today. Want to thank everybody again for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at TheNFLGirl 320. Dominic, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at EnvisionFF.
You can read more of my thoughts on SheKnowsProFootball.com. Dominic, where can they read your work?
You can read my work at The Athletic, at PhiladelphiaEagles.com, and at SportsbookWire.com.
That's all the time we have, you guys. See you back here next week.